Birthday party, am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
No, well, is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that? I know about them.
Ellen, now, were you surprised by the allegations about P. Diddy? Did that surprise you about P. Diddy? He's been on your show many times. Have you been to his parties?
I don't have any real personal beef with Diddy, but it's got to go down. The bits are there. I'm a gold miner. I just found some gold.
Joe Rogan just said something that set the conversation off, and this time he's calling out the silence around Ellen DeGeneres. With the Diddy situation dominating headlines and timelines, people keep asking the same thing. How is nobody connecting the dots that keep coming up? Because Ellen's name keeps popping up in this discussion, and a lot of people are acting like they don't see it. When Diddy was hit with serious federal charges, the public did what it always does. It started digging. Old clips, old interviews, old moments people laughed at back then now land completely different when you replay them through a different lens. And that's where Ellen comes in. People started pulling up clips of Ellen and Diddy looking unusually comfortable on her show, laughing, joking, leaning into the party talk like it was harmless.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Combs. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it, as long as you say it in a nice way.
But with the way the conversation has shifted, those jokes are getting rewatched like they meant something more. Now wait until you hear what Joe Rogan actually said about it. In his view, there's a reason people aren't pressing Ellen the way they're pressing others. Even though she had Diddy on her show multiple times, and the party talk wasn't just a passing comment, it was on camera. It was casual. And it's now being reinterpreted by viewers as part of a much bigger story.
Going to be a new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
You know I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late, because, you know, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know?
When you really think about it, the silence is loud, and it raises one question. Is this just awkward timing, or is it the kind of topic nobody wants to go near? And here's where it gets even stranger. Remember when Ellen's show ended after that toxic workplace scandal? That wasn't just a quick headline. It reshaped how people saw her. Later, she and Portia moved to the UK, with Ellen publicly tying that decision to the political climate. But a lot of watchers didn't treat it like a lifestyle move. They treated the timing like a signal. Fair or not, that's how it's being read. Coincidence? Maybe. But the audience doesn't do maybe, and it's why people keep pulling old receipts and asking what really went on behind the scenes. So before we get deeper into the Rogan angle, here's the quick recap of why Ellen even matters in this conversation. Back when BuzzFeed News dropped that report about her show, it blew up her "Be Kind" image overnight. Former staff described an environment with intimidation, racism allegations, toxic management, and people feeling like they couldn't speak up without consequences. The part that stuck with the public was the contrast. The brand was kindness, but the story sounded like pressure. The backlash got so heavy that several executive producers were removed, and Ellen addressed it publicly.
As you may have heard, this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected.
The show continued for a bit and then ended, with Ellen saying it just wasn't challenging anymore. But a lot of people read it differently, like the trust was gone and it never fully came back. So now let's get to what Joe Rogan actually said about Ellen in the Diddy discussion on his podcast. Rogan talked about how strange it is that for years so many celebrities openly joked about Diddy's parties like it was a flex.
I guess Diddy just kept people at his houses because he's got multiple houses and he's just had freak out part. Look at him. Look at Saucy Santana. Go, Saucy.
Yeah, no, Saucy's crazy. Have you seen Saucy?
He mentioned people like Ashton Kutcher and others who used to talk about those parties like it was some badge of honor. Then he pointed out the obvious. One of the biggest places those party conversations played out on camera was Ellen's show. Rogan's point was basically this. How did all these famous people orbit those parties for years, talk about them publicly, laugh about them, and claim they saw nothing while the current allegations paint a very different picture? And the reason this hit so hard is because a lot of that party talk wasn't subtle. There was a specific moment from that 2018 interview that people keep replaying.
Now, what time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, you know, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
Mm-hmm. And then it will carry on there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then no, I mean the after party.
Mm-hmm. No,
That's the moment people won't let go of. So, let's break down why this matters and why Rogan thinks it's suspicious that Ellen's name barely gets mentioned in the mainstream framing of the story. First, Ellen had Diddy on her show multiple times, and the party talk was a running joke. Then people started pulling older clips too, like that 2002 Conan O'Brien moment where Diddy jokes about needing locks on the doors at his parties. Back then it sounded like shock humor. When people replay it now, it doesn't land like a joke anymore. It lands like foreshadowing, whether that's fair or not.
Right. You know, so if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
Yeah.
you know.
Once those clips started circulating again, the question turned into what did Ellen know, if anything, and why isn't she saying a word? People even resurfaced that old 2016 tweet where Ellen joked and nicknamed Diddy Cuddle McNuggle stuff. Then there were moments circulating where she's approached with questions and doesn't engage.
I feel like you may not do that. You're neat though, right? I would imagine your closet is color coordinated. Everything is hung in a certain,
Yes.
right? So you're neat. It's just that you're not the person that puts it back.
Some viewers read her body language as uncomfortable. Others say that's just how anyone would look being ambushed. Either way, it poured more gas on the discussion. Rogan's point stays simple. If you were close enough to have him on your show multiple times, joke about the party culture on national TV, and react like you know what that means, then people are going to expect you to address it when the conversation turns serious.
Party, but there's a camera that swings around and they go, hey yo, oh, Odell Beckham, and you see Justin Bieber's head come up from his crotch, and he looks in the camera and he's very confused. It's a really disturbing video.
At that time, Puff was the biggest guy in the world. You know, you couldn't even get in his parties. And he was throwing a party, and he said, yo, Playboy, this party's $1.5 million. I said, for what? I mean, what are you saying? It costs $1.5 million to throw this party. I said, Puff, I love it. The party's amazing. Yes, the mayor is here and everything. I said, but that's too much money. I said, you come to my place in LA, I'll throw you a party for $400. That will rival this party. And he got a little mad. He was like, yo, no, I'm known for this shit. Don't.
And the silence from Ellen and a lot of other names is what he finds suspicious at the perception level. But hold up, because there's another layer to this that makes the whole thing even more complicated. Remember the workplace scandal? Some former staff have described a culture where people felt scared to speak up. A lot of commenters compare that dynamic, fear, power, silence, to how they imagine other celebrity circles operate when someone has influence. That doesn't confirm anything criminal about Ellen, but it helps explain why the parallels keep getting drawn and why the conversation sticks. There are also stories that get repeated in that same context, like the Ellen gaze from a former crew member describing how tense the set felt, or claims about certain guests being kept off the show over personal conflicts. Whether every detail is accurate or not, the pattern people argue about is the same: control, pressure, and silence. Once the public starts seeing a pattern like that, they don't just watch the clips. They reinterpret them. And here's a moment people point to as the sharpest contrast, because it shows how clean someone's public stance can sound right before their own image takes hits. In 2009, after Chris Brown was publicly accused of hitting Rihanna, Ellen put Diddy on the spot on her show and spoke like she was taking a hard stand on domestic violence.
This leads me to the perfect thing, because I would like you to clear something up. There's
Yes.
a lot of talk going on with Chris Brown being at your place in Miami, and you arranging Chris and Rihanna getting back together.
And it's my house. And I'm allowed to give my house to whoever I want to give my house
Sure.
to. That's number one. Number two is that I'm the type of person that I don't cast a stone or cast a judgment on anybody. And so if a friend or friends ask me for a favor, then I'm going to be there.
Later, when workplace allegations around Ellen's own show circulated, Former staff were describing toxic behavior and a culture that felt abusive to them. That's why people call it hypocrisy. Not because it proves a crime, but because the contrast is hard to ignore. One moment it's protecting women, and the next moment it's claims that her own set was a mess behind the scenes. Now zoom out for a second. There were also reports that Ellen and Portia sold off their Montecito place and moved to rural England, with the move being publicly tied to the political climate. A lot of viewers instantly mashed that timing into the Diddy conversation because while his legal situation was pulling more attention, everyone was watching which celebrity names stayed silent and which ones didn't. This is where the rabbit hole gets even darker, because the crowd doesn't just watch, it invents. At one point, rumors started flying that Ellen had an arrest warrant connected to her former DJ, Steven Twitch Boss, and that some kind of recording was played in court. Fact-checkers shut that claim down as false. What's revealing is how fast it spread anyway, because people weren't asking if it was true first. They were asking if it fit the storyline. With Ellen's reputation already damaged, her name became a magnet for anything that sounds shocking, especially if it can be attached to a bigger Hollywood darkness narrative. That's the risk with moments like this. A rumor can travel faster than reality, but the distrust is real, and that's why these stories don't die. Even in her Netflix special, Ellen addressed being pushed out of show business and joked about it.
All right, well, let me catch up on what's been going on with me since you saw me last. I decided to take up gardening. I got chickens. Let me see what else I can tell you about that. It's been going on. Oh, yeah, I got kicked out of show.
What some people focused on wasn't even the joke. It was the tone. The way she talked about ego, exposure, and how loud the hate gets compared to the love. A lot of listeners didn't hear that as accountability. They heard it as deflection, like someone still processing the fallout, not someone fully owning it. Then you had another viral moment showing how far this has gone. Aaron Rodgers went on Joe Rogan's podcast and tried to compare Ellen's old talk show set to Epstein Island because of similar-looking architecture.
Look at the temple, and then look at the...
Let me see Ellen's background. What? Oh, similar. That looks like a building, though. Like
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Is that a building in LA? That might be a building in LA.
One person said Ellen knew and is living in England while Diddy is tied up in a federal case. Others said Rogan is the only one saying what everyone's thinking and asked why certain names get dragged while others get a softer edit. Then you get the body language takes, with clips of Ellen not engaging and people calling it guilty looking. Again, that's not proof. That's perception. But perception is what drives these comment wars. You see a repeating theme in the replies. Toxic workplace headlines, an apology people didn't find satisfying, a move overseas treated like a signal, and the Diddy conversation getting louder, all stitched together into one narrative. That's the engine of this whole story. People feel like Ellen never really paid a price, so they're looking for a bigger explanation. Remember the question from the beginning. Why does it feel like nobody wants to talk about Ellen in this conversation? Here's the answer a lot of people land on. They think she's handled differently. Not officially, not in a court way, but in a still Ellen way. Connections, money, relationships, influence, and the ability to shape a narrative even after stepping away from TV. What's changing is this. People like Joe Rogan don't play by the same social rules. They'll say the quiet part out loud, not as a verdict, but as a question. Once a huge platform treats something like a valid question, the audience runs with it. The real controversy isn't that Ellen is worse than Diddy. That's a reckless leap. The controversy is why some names get interrogated nonstop while other names get handled differently, even when the clips exist, even when the quotes exist, even when the optics look messy. That's why this keeps circulating. The Diddy situation triggered a rewind. Old interviews get replayed, old jokes get relabeled, and suddenly people aren't just watching entertainment. They're watching for patterns. So what's next for Ellen? Probably a quiet life, unless someone comes forward with real, verifiable evidence tying her to anything illegal. Not vibes, not theories, not body language. She'll likely be remembered more for the toxic workplace era and the colder reputation than anything connected to Diddy. As for Diddy, the legal fight doesn't just disappear. There are appeals, filings, civil battles, and a nonstop echo that keeps pulling more names into the conversation, whether they belong there or not. So, what do you think about all this? Do you think Ellen knew more than she ever admitted, or is this just the internet doing what it always does, turning old clips into a storyline? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more breakdowns of celebrity drama that mainstream coverage tiptoes around, check out the other videos on the channel.